Oh, they would. We got permit and everything. You was in animal husbandry, am I right? Well, you ever seen lightning strike livestock, Mr. McDaniels? I ain't ever seen the actual impact, but I came across a pasture sometime after. The storm had just cleared and there was smoke in the air, smell of burning hair. You know, there must have been a dozen head of cattle lying there piled up, mangled. Strange scars across their backs, legs, and necks. It's half like they was burned, half like the skin was ripped off. No! Eyes bleeding. Some of them popped out. No! If I hadn't seen the storm, I would have thought some devil caused that mischief. But no, sir. It was hot. Electricity does something, all right. I seen trees explode in front of me. I seen desert sand baked into glass. That's what I seen lightning do. But, hey, this electricity professor you got playing for you, that must be of an entirely different kind.
Don't let what's happening outside affect how you feel inside. Color windows and test against the tree. Cold and rain. Next is the first $5 like original baseball hat stuff later for over $50. Personalized luggage tags of $25. Roller handmade outdoor gear with explosion. Their tags ones. Get a gift that gets you. Yes, yes. We'll just run out of and travel with their grandchildren. I understand. That's why that's the start by getting it's like an introduction and why I started allow them to do it. What about commission based product? We don't sell this. We're obligated to have the ordinance. So we have a transparent fee.
What? What? No, what?
SpaceX moments ago launching its Starship rocket into orbit. We're looking at this right now. There's a slight
No.
delay on the launch. We're watching a moment
Go smoke.
right now. Now, just what we're seeing here is actually the ninth test flight. It is being very closely watched. It's very important. The last two Starship test flights abruptly ended when the company's rockets exploded. This is right over Starbucks tests. Of course, I got to get the reports from the Venezuela lawyer. This is very into this with me now. To tell us, so, 18 months. Criticism is that we're wanting to focus on things like rockets so that they function the way they should, cars, etc. These are the ways to function since he became a politician. So SpaceX, which is obviously
Well, we're talking about a reputation that got this fifth out of the top 100 priorities. Look where it fell to by 2025. Oh my God. 86 out of 100. That's crazy, folks, right there. Tesla is below that. Yes, Tesla. But it's true. This is part of what we've seen with Elon Musk is it's not just bringing him down. It's bringing down the organization companies that he is run, whether it be SpaceX or Tesla. Favorability rating at this point, I think, was minus 20 points for the recent CNBC.
it's amazing. It was like the president number one EV car in this Tesla sale down 66%.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable. Now, the unpopularity was really great, being with people and also jokes, right? Think about those ones. People just say, okay, we don't like what happened, we may not like it. There's just things we don't like. But if you could go in and successfully implement those for development,
laid out his vision. Okay, there are some people who felt that way. So can you compare the promises of what he said he was going to pay, $3 trillion, $2 trillion, to where what he actually did?
You know, the one thing is Elon Musk went into government, made these announcements, got a lot of votes, seemed faithful, and he actually did what he set out to do. But take a look at the promises that Elon Musk made in terms of the cuts he said that Doge was going to make versus what actually ended up happening. His first goal was $2 trillion, okay? Then, cut it in half to $1 trillion. What was the actual cuts to government? At this point, according to Doge, they were only going to pay for $375 billion. That's not half bad, but keep in mind, first of all, that's way short of the first one. Way short of the second one. But more than that, we haven't actually seen it. This is the problem he's telling us. But either way, Elon Musk is totally way short of where he said that those
Professor would be real pleased to meet you.
No, if you do the many things they said they did.
I got it.
Exponentially. So they need to show that this is even oh my God. It's right in the budget bill that was just passed was $2 trillion right after that. So I mean, tell me something that.
All right, I'll tell you something. You know, you spoke about Elon Musk's net favorability rating in this country has plummeted, right? But compare it to Europe. You were mentioning Finland earlier. How about Great Britain? So let's take a look at the net favorability of Elon Musk.
Where's
in America, and then look at it in the United States. In the U.S.,
All the running around I've been doing.
but look at the on a net favorability.
Let's get
Someone in the UK with a favorable rating of Elon Musk is
unfortunately ready for a demonstration. Oh, do come and watch. It'll be amazing.
All right, well, that's that. However, I will say this. That rocket looks like it's doing okay. And if that's everybody should be able to celebrate when something like American Ingenuity does well, which is why SpaceX used to be mentioned.
And now,
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Harry. And next, Trump telling Canada to cough up $61 billion, which wants to be protected by his non-existent Golden Dome. And if they want it for free, you know, he's going to build it, and they get it. They have to agree to a very specific set of terms. And we'll tell you what it is.
A CNN special event on June 7th on landmark television event for the first time ever. Broadway goes live on television. George Clooney and the five-time Tony-nominated Good Night in Good Luck. One night only, live on CNN and streaming live on Max.
On the next episode of My Happy Place, I'm buying all around. TV Spencer lets comfort in the city literally has every little place. Again, My Happy Place on TV Spencer, Sunday at 10 on CNN.
what if all I do is contact to drive these
Excuse me.
Wait. No, helps your body regulate blood sugar. And can help you do less. Plus, 3 out of 4 people reaching A1C of less than 7%. And people lost up to 25 pounds. I'll take 1 jar of protection. Some of your family had
What?
I'll get to your doctor right away if you have a COVID reaction.
Well, after
Serious side effects may
Yeah.
taking on cards simply tell your dog doctor before scheduling procedure with anesthesia. Side effects include nausea, diarrhea, dehydration, and vigorous diabetes. As little as $25 per month. Ask your doctor about Mounjaro.
artificial intelligence is very expensive. Very rich. To provide the world's leading universe to realize AI's potential today and into the future. We are built for this.
Energy in just 2 weeks.
Yes?
Yes?
Sorry.
I'm looking for
Mayor.
Mayor.
Yes.
Yes.
He's Mr. Kilgon. What was his name? Right.
Right.
Welcome to
Welcome to
government.
government.
Democracy.
Democracy.
An interesting
Interesting
idea.
idea.
Monsieur
Monsieur
Lemieux?
Lemieux?
Oh,
Hello,
hello, friend.
friend.
Hello.
Hello.
Fasten
That's
your
his skill.
skills.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
really?
Okay. No, you are not going to rob me again, are you? No.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Don't
don't
worry.
worry about it.
But you are
But you are
not
not
a
a very
popular
popular
man.
man.
There's all
There's all
kinds of
kinds of
nasty
nasty
people want to speak to you,
Mr.
Mr.
Tacitus.
I
I
know.
know.
They won't
They
hear
won't hear
anything about
anything
you
about you
from
from
me.
me.
But
There's
there's always a
But
but.
a politician
Who needs
needs
killing?
killing nobody.
From the
Savages,
savages,
French, Frenchman.
ridiculous killing. Dear,
Dear.
terrifying.
Yes.
I suppose
Suppose
I
I
can
can
do that
do
all
that.
those
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
sure
sure
we
we
can.
can.
Now,
It's all
very
very
ethical.
ethical.
You see,
You
I've
see,
been
I've
trying
been
to
trying
open
to
a
open a
major
major
museum, a
place
place
of
of
culture
culture
to
to elevate people's souls.
souls.
And what
And what do museums need?
Art.
Art.
And how do
And
you
how
buy
do you
What?
buy art?
I
I buy art
Who?
from some nasty little man from
Paris selling me some
No.
destitute aristocrat's collection of old masters that it turns out he may have been painting himself.
Ouch. Ouch
Ouch.
indeed.
But
But
these are good paintings.
I can't
I
make
can't
the
make the
difference.
difference.
And
I'm
I'm
French.
Only this even nastier little man from England has come here to verify my painting. And he's saying they're all fake. So perhaps
he
he
can be persuaded to revise his opinion.
Oh, he's been
Exactly.
Exactly.
Now,
Perhaps
perhaps
you
you
can
can
take
take
Mr.
Mr.
Arthur.
Arthur, I mean Mr.
Tacitus,
Tacitus,
to
to meet
a
little Professor Shitface and have a word with him.
Saint-Denis
welcomes you like a son.
Bonne
Bonne
chance.
chance.
Once be part of our fabulous golden dome system, but it will cost $61 billion if they remain a separate but unequal nation. It will cost $0
Come,
from
sir.
our charge to
Again,
the
we're just at the end of this avenue.
They are considering the opera.
As I said, he's a beastly man.
North Korea,
Believe me, friend, you ain't seen basically yet. Not even close.
You know, I thought the French had a little bit of Aragon. Over on the
Handshakes feel like
There ain't too many overeducated ministers around.
Yes,
Land
indeed.
golden dome
The mayor had
space
a great
outer space military force.
We should have surrounded
Uniform
for the
location.
rest.
Typical of America. Harsh words. That's just it for you now.
Opinions can change.
Also,
Can they not?
and it's
They
all
change all the time.
Beijing will use the golden dome to highlight the principle of peaceful use of outer space, guiding the dangerous space.
Damn,
It's
it's
not just them.
Oh, what's his name again?
Space. From China and North Korea to Russia, someday Iran. The list of America's nuclear-armed adversaries is growing. So are their missile arsenals. President Trump's Golden Dome would be the most ambitious and expensive space weapon system ever. $175 billion. Israel's Iron Dome defends cities from short-range rockets in a country about the size of New Jersey. Golden Dome will try to shield the entire U.S., shooting down nuclear missiles in orbit before they reach Earth. But experts say the technology of it all doesn't exist. At least yet.
Mayor,
President
ask
Snyder
us to get a brief of your findings.
missile defense company
The mayor
Lockheed
there
Martin
says,
says
well, what I
we will
found.
create the best
Every
and
page
American
is a
innovation
brazen
fraud, game-changing tech
That's a
like
big
space-based
claim.
interceptors
One
and
that's gonna
hypersonic
upset
defenses
people.
that will ensure America's Golden Dome stays relevant
That's just hard cheese.
And despite
I see a
despite
in your face to persuade you.
research and development going back more than 4 decades to President Ronald Reagan in 1983. I know this While it may not be
Change your mind yet?
Have been proven effective against a really large-scale intercontinental ballistic missile attack, especially with deeply
How about your education now?
and that's what we want to what we're seeing now. Historically, other echoes of Trump have been proposed. President Trump's golden goal is a golden promise, but and we will have the message of that. So it creates more
Say free country. An academic reputation is really far less important than a broken nose. The thing is, people don't look at those things. You're helping. You know I'm right, Professor. Please. Not let me interrupt you again.
You're right. Very right.
Because otherwise, I'll be in jail.
No, we don't want that.
Of course
especially China. That will accelerate. It's already underway. If the Golden Dome blasts off, who knows what happens next.
Well, thank you very much, as always. And thanks, of course, to all of you. We'll see you tomorrow.
Tonight on 360 breaking news on presidential pardons and reality TV companies granted freedom from federal prison for the president. Also tonight, the latest in the battle of Trump versus Harlan and the impact it may have on our public health. And later, a manhunt for convicted rapist and killer who's also a former police chief. Escaped prison affirming uniform authorities.
turns out,
All those brains were real after all. Problem solved.
Wonderful. The mayor told me so. Was Professor Schickecker happy to change his mind?
He wasn't initially, but he came around.
They spent nearly 3 years in
This is not right.
Trust me, I've done much worse.
Shall burn in hell for this.
It's open.
Here, the mayor asked you to do this.
Thank you.
tax crimes, including attempting to defraud the IRS. Twins that attempted to defraud a voter taxes. One of the president's children spoke at last year's Republican convention. Today, the advisors of the president posted a video of calling the couple's kids to give them the news.
It's a terrible thing, but it's a great thing because your brothers are going to be free and clean, and I hope we can do it by tomorrow. I don't know them, but give them my regards, and wish them, yes. Yes. Thank you for bringing my parents. They were given a pretty harsh treatment based on what we did.
The Supreme Court daughter spoke to the Republican National Convention in July. She also campaigned for the president on what was billed as the Teen Trump's Women Tour. Also tonight, the New York Times reporting former nursing home executive Paul Balzac is also getting a full pardon, and like Grizzly, he too was convicted of tax crimes, accused of siphoning some $10 million from employee paychecks under the pretext he was going to Texas. Instead, according to the New York Times, he spent some of the $2 million yacht for himself. And like the Grizzly's daughter's accused of convention, according to the Times, Paul Balzac's mom, Grace
Sister, my friend, Mr. Morgan.
and attended a $1 for dinner.
Sir, Brother Dorkins told me about the wonderful thing you did.
He talks a lot now. Take it all.
Hey, stop! He's scared
It's
to
no
the
worse.
Sabotage the 2025 presidential campaign by publicizing the daughter of the provider of the daughter, Ashley Hunter. President Trump has given a full pardon also to this victim, the sheriff. This hour before he was sent to prison, federal prosecutor Scott Jenkins, who served as a top law enforcement officer of Culpeper County, was convicted in December of conspiracy of the charges, including accepting nearly $75,000 bribe for Republican several businessmen and Jews and federal sheriffs. The department was sentenced for 10 years. Now he is a free man. The president said that public social media and that the sheriff is a victim of a $100 like Department of Justice. It doesn't deserve to go to single man in jail. But before all,
Why don't you leave the door alone?
Lost really found that the simple harder than you. He was searching issues that he's related to the site. The Department of Justice had described as the most sophisticated and extensive criminal marketplace on the internet. Rod avoided this. He told me that the Governor of Illinois, he was looking for office and drug charges included a scheme to sell
You want some company, business?
No.
You sure?
He served 8 years of a 14-year sentence.
This
When
is
he
just
received
house.
the sentence, the president's first term.
Get away from me. Help! Help!
Hold on.
This man is bothering me. Someone help me.
Business dealings. He got a pardon from the March. His pardon broke out March of 2022 with a volume of speed involving fraudulent legal insurance like $60 million for private bonds. He also announced that the Tennessee State Senator Brian Kelsey. That happened just 2 weeks after Kelsey reported federal prison served nearly 2 years sentence for the legal campaign finance scheme indicated again for 2 back in 2022. Chief Justice was by an England source Daily College closed the out.
They're arguing in Mark Anderson that they believe the sentences that the Christmas got here were too harsh, and that is why they're taking this step. I've been hearing for the last several weeks this is under consideration by the president. Seeing Savannah Presley, his daughter, in town in Washington, and there's great speculation that this is likely something that Savannah could take really late today with that phone call from the Oval Office, the president to Savannah. But this is back to the president's side once he appointed her in his first term in office after a big lobbying campaign by people like Kim Kardashian and others. And as a shift that we call today, as he informed the family that and for Savannah Presley, I mean, you've noticed over the last few months that she has made a real lobbying effort of her own to get her parents granted this clemency by the president. She spoke to her convention. She's like it with the oversight to President Trump's struggles with the law and issues that he's had. She said they were underlooked just because they were reality TV stars in a series that really showcased their lifestyle. And obviously, prosecutor Doug started to take this step that the White House is not taking. But we're taking this week, maybe there'll be no office, but for this, that's something that seemed to be under consideration. But essentially, that was the argument, is that they were arguing that they had been unfairly prosecuted and unfairly targeted when it came to their sentences.
Obviously, the top of the hour source is running down. That's some of the federal prosecution for 2 minutes. Pardon because there's the mercy. And it's even paper company of revenue circles, which was record in the first White House. Jeff, I mean, it's kind of fascinating. These are a lot of like financial crimes. Like he's going to have some sort of interaction with his campaign.
Right. I mean, I think the connecting thread all is they have all done something for Donald Trump. Either they have paid actual money, like paid $1 million to in the fundraiser, or they were political supporters, like the crooked sheriff in Virginia to fight the Chrisleys. I mean, it is. And the important point to remember, though, is that this is an absolute power of the president, and people can be outraged, people can be unhappy. There is absolutely no check and balance. We spent a lot of time in the early part of this term, debating about whether the president has authority to do one thing or another. Here, clearly, he has the authority to do it, and he's doing it, and there's nothing anyway for him to
Jeff, what is the application for Parliament to cite your mom's efforts, not just on how to be on this case, I mean, this all is incredibly unusual. I mean, there are a lot of controversial pardons throughout American history, whether it's Gerald Ford pardoning Richard Nixon, Joe Biden pardoning Hunter Biden, but this, and we haven't even talked about the 1,500 people rioters at the Capitol on January 6th who were pardoned. I mean, the president is really aggressively using his pardon power, but not for people who have particularly sympathetic stories, only for people who have done something for him. It's all transactional. He doesn't really care at this. I mean, he's fully leaning in.
He's really leaning into it, and it feels okay to play to some extent. That the price of a pardon is loyalty to Donald Trump. And what stood out to me is you're watching Alice Johnson standing next to him in the Oval Office there. Somebody who many people across the political spectrum supported Donald Trump pardon. This is somebody who's over sentenced and was kind of speaking to a period where we're over sentencing certain drug crimes. Why is it cause that he could be using his presidential powers to be championing? There's many people who are wrongly incarcerated or have been for too long at this point. But instead, he's focusing on loyalty to him, but I also think these sort of celebrity causes. I remember in the first term, he toyed with the idea of pardoning Joe Exotic, the Tiger King character. That was kind of a big show at the time at the end of his first administration. He didn't ultimately do it, but I think he wants people who have given money to him, have proven supporters, but also kind of a fan base with them.
The other thing, Ed Morgan, who the DOJ pardon attorney, he posted about the pardon of Sheriff Jenkins from his personal account saying, "No MAGA left behind. Thank you, I Curtis Trump, for pardoning Sheriff Jenkins."
No back of the That's exactly right. That's what these pardons are. They are pardons for MAGA people. And as I say, President Trump has the right to do that under the Constitution. But it is compared to how other presidents have at least tried to show that they are even-handed or dispensing mercy as opposed to political favors. This no MAGA left behind. I think something else.
Excuse me, folks. Sister got your
I hope I'm going
Nice five.
Physically.
Mentally, he's a piece of work. Who am I?
Brother Dorothy's right about you. You are the most wonderful man.
Brother
Dorothy's last year, which said
Great
that
lady
any
saving from Frey.
cannot
Happy to help live.
a pardon
The Hindus here, you see, it's his name. My mother gave it to me when I was an elder, shortly before she passed. You are the wonderful
in
man.
return for pardons.
Excuse me,
There's
father.
nothing
Sister.
the prosecution could do. He could be impeached, but he couldn't.
See, Pop?
And by the way, I don't think Donald Trump cares about this in the optics of this in the second term. In the first term, Matt Gaetz and others reportedly sought preemptive pardons when he was leaving office after he lost. And he declined to do this. I think there was a certain sense of impropriety in how that would be received by the public. He feels very encouraged because of the Joe Biden pardons. When he left office pardoning his family, I think this White House sees that as kind of muddying the waters with the general public to point to a lot of presidents who abuse pardon power.
I just want to listen to the president gave the information to the press and that's part of the problem. Talk about strong support for Miller. The military also attacked, usual suspects, ranchers, DEI, and he gave some condensed life advice, whatever.
He ended up getting a divorce, found a new wife. Would you say a trophy wife?
Come in. Let me know if I can help you out choosing something.
Doesn't work out. But it made him happy for a little while at least. But he found a new wife.
Besides the sharp, I like it.
And there was a lot of stuff like this.
I think we call that the lead. He hits a lot of different points. It'll be something about the military, something about trophy wives, squirrels, sparkles, whatever.
And he did that national stuff very things over the phone. So Joe talked about how great it is back then.
And he usually goes into these speeches with pre-scripted remarks that do go through a staff secretary process. He reviews them in advance because no government lets to speak off the cuff. And I think in ways that he maybe the first time again that he was in office kind of felt like he wanted to rise to the occasion at some points when he gave these speeches. He now feels very empowered, and he thinks the U.S. military strongly supports him. I think he looks at figures where 60% of veterans voted for Trump versus like 40% for Democrats. So he thinks he's speaking to his guys when he's at West Point. He doesn't see it as this is more of a sort of sacred, nonpartisan duty.
Jeff, there was also a movement in the lawsuits against the administration and the efforts by law firms to fight back. There was a ruling in favor of another prominent law firm, William Hale, which was targeted by the president.
There have been 3 rulings so far in these lawsuits, and in all 3 rulings, they're almost identical. They've said what the president and the administration tried to do is unconstitutional under multiple aspects of the Constitution. And all these law firms keep winning, however, yes, they surrender, so they are still
Governor Mexico's overtaken the federal share funding, canceling the last $1 billion in funding returns back to the government. We also have great news on the SpaceX test launch and it going haven't rolled out. The other thing that the spacecraft is out of control of things.
What is your problem? What's up with your
Application kills fence bugs in 365 days. Nature's wild. Home doesn't have
If you spend less than $3 to get a free 5G phone with unlimited data, you get 4 months to yourself by getting something for them. Get a free 5G phone on us, America's most reliable 5G network. Find us at Walmart and Springfield.
What? Yeah. What? Yeah.
You see recaps and then retest again. Now it's time for you to put us to the test. Whatever you do for us.
You found a good hire company because you live in the ocean. Now spreadsheets. You need to hire. You need Indeed. Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job on Indeed, candidates can find it easier, so you can hire easier. Visit Indeed.com/hire. Take a look. There are 3 pages and your overpriced satellite TV. You can't miss. You can't miss this. Upgrade and save $30 a month and get 3 months free.
Upgrade dish. Careful, you're free.
There he is.
Gesture too. After this. The one is free. Get the shot. What citizens of the nation's speaking is a hilarious philosophical delicious concoction.
Hello,
Hey,
Mary Beth.
How are you?
How are you?
Well, I'm well, I think. It's been quite a road ahead, but we're still alive.
So, no regrets?
Regrets for
Regrets for
what?
what?
Oh, for going in this land of maniacs.
If you're
If you're a girl without means in this world,
life is
life is
very
very
scary.
scary.
You
You
boys care
boys
for
care for me before
no one
no
cared
one
for
cared for
me.
me.
Well, life worked really nice, Arthur. Right after Mama got typhoid, and that was a long time ago. What about
What
you?
about you?
I heard you ran into that Mary girl.
Yep.
And
Got me thinking how that all ended. Long time ago now.
what
What
happened?
happened?
Well, she
She
didn't love me enough, I guess. I
I
wouldn't
wouldn't
change.
Well, she
Well,
was a
she was a
fool,
fool.
Arthur.
Well, she
Well, she put a lot of good years in on an outlaw. She definitely was a fool.
In these
In these
books,
books,
life
life
seems so
seems so
simple,
simple,
but in reality,
reality,
can't make head nor tail. Mr. Morgan! Mr. Morgan, we have a problem. Real problem. Tilly.
What?
She's been taken by them Foreman brothers she used to run. Come along.
Foreman brothers, what are they doing
I
here?
don't know what they've been doing here, but I can tell you what they're going to be doing here. Die.
Do we
Do
need
we
more
need more
guns?
guns?
You and I can handle this, Arthur.
In space
Where
is
we
a
headed?
Tell you on the way.
Just
get going.
Re-entry. Now, the initial
All right, head for road. And quick.
successful.
Jason Rhodes?
No. She's at a place called Bradley's house, just west of there. When they first got here, she told me she was worried that our camp was near that gang she ran into from time to time.
You told us.
No. She spoke to me in confidence. I suppose I didn't think it would be a problem.
Yes.
Yes.
What do they want with her? I think I got one of the foreman's Tesla's.
Yes. They crossed a lot down here. Killed one of them for good reason, but clearly they don't see it that way.
The light show start, the starship is getting closer to its re-entry. Just booted in, successfully making it, but run into a couple of issues that we posted to our entry point of the ocean. At this point, we had lost attitude control of the ship, and that's where it was spent. The team made the call to what's called passivate the vehicles, or essentially venting them off the remaining propellant overboard, and it's going to make an uncontrolled re-entry. Important to note, this is a contingency that is planned for, and we clear the zones in the Indian Ocean where these entries will take place. So we're not going to come down exactly where we're going, that nothing happened. But we do clear a tremendous amount of space out of the Indian Ocean in the event that we're going to this. We understand that there are risks essentially with these flight tests with the hardware. We don't really accept any compromise when it comes to protecting people.
And it is so now as we work, we still enter in our planned airspace zone, which is good. That is exactly what we planned for. You know, we do plan for if something does go a little bit that we have enough airspace to do for situations just like this.
The phase that we need to try and gather as much data, as much information as possible as a fully reusable heat shield system flow before the history of spaceflight. That's something that Sergeant Flo has to crack. So we had a whole range of experiments on this one. At this point, we started to lose some of our cameras, so it's very possible that we'll start to lose contact with Starship a lot sooner than we will if it was a nominal re-entry. So we're expecting it to bring up essentially the re-entry immediately. So not able to do objectives today, but just the fact that we
Killed
in space was just
second flight today, and it made it all the way to shut down all the engines and getting ship into its orbital trajectory today. It did ignite its 13 engines, but it did lose we plan to land a variable attack to expect it to stress the vehicle a lot more than we've seen previously. So it's not unexpected that we did lose so to the actual landing.
So, we're going to continue to dig out and see if we get any updates on ship and what's getting soon. There we go. So this is a view essentially Sergeant looking at outcomes and the ability to turn the nose cone. So reviews are going to potentially and essentially a couple of people lost that attitude control. So strong but it's able to take these down.
I think that last one's the ball. Lasso him and we'll take him back to Tilly. Don't kill yet. I want Tilly to have the last word on this bastard. That's it. Now make sure you tie him up real. You bring that bastard back to Tilly so we can all have a nice little chat. I'm gonna head over there now and check she's okay.
Deployment of the southern satellite system, and of course now we're
You have the first idea what you're getting into.
Former with a man. I want the young face of the skeleton.
The artifact, three lander, is literally
Oh, don't worry, you'll be safe soon.
the launch itself.
Here's your man.
It seemed like a successful launch. Yeah, the launching, they had a few things start says they looked at a few issues with ground equipment. But then as it rose to space, everything seemed to go.
So he's still alive, man?
Yes.
See this girl? Leave her alone. You're goddamn funny. Come and have it for me. I don't care if you shot your daddy and cooked your mama for breakfast. She's mine. She ain't yours.
You always said,
There's a food game. Now, you want all these dead? She had a reason.
You woman, boy. No family on my
You see there,
I'm gonna go and tell remaining of his cousin and the clowns he rides with to leave me alone.
I'll leave you alone.
History is never done. Hit your car. But I slit his throat. Go on.
Just so you can't control.
Finish it faster.
Sadly, I agree with you. Sorry, partner. We can't take no chances with the likes of you.
It went in a direction that you can't counteract with the other adjustments.
And I mean, we're saying it's kind of in a spin. They say they know he's going to fall within the area that they had cleared, that they had planned for any kind of incident that we took from them. How can they be so sure?
Well, that's a good question. Because without that kind of attitude control, I'm not sure it could be so sure. It's up to say the Indian Ocean is a rather large target. So let's hope that that is the case and that this is not on any sort of trajectory that would take it anywhere near human beings. But the way the vision was architected include the possibility of these kinds of failures as a possible scenario. And so we can only hope that that is the case.
Well, let's just stay with it. I want to bring Fisher, Simon, this case analyst. Kristen, you've been watching this, obviously, and it's really, it was a successful launch, but clearly not the desired outcome, although we've seen this kind of incidents before.
not the total desired outcome, Anderson, but this flight, this mission did make it much farther than the previous two Starships, Starship 7 and Starship 8. Both of those flight tests ended in that spectacular explosion over the Gulf of Mexico or Gulf of America, and caused all sorts of flight delays. And those explosions, or rapid and scheduled disassemblies, as SpaceX likes to call them, those happened about 8, 9, 10 minutes into the mission. So this Starship survived much longer than that. It survived that critical period when it was naked during those previous two test flights. So SpaceX will be happy about that. But if you listen to what Elon Musk was saying in some interviews right before this launch, he said this was a heat field mission, a heat tile mission. They really wanted to see how the tiles around Starship did in protecting it as it reached those really high temperatures. And because of this leak, because of the loss of the attitude control, because it was spinning out of control, SpaceX did not be able to test that. So definitely a disappointment for the SpaceX team tonight. But not as bad, not nearly as bad as it could have been.
Something like this, I mean, obviously they expect a certain amount of this, and certainly this company has a high tolerance for it. How many more is another non-tolerant schedule?